Of hands, how many of you feel that you're ready to answer the energy portion of the next exam? Okay, good. Okay, because we're going to turn our attention now to momentum. And what I'd like you to do, does everyone have the homework that's due on Wednesday after you vote? Okay. Question 3, problem 6. Now, if you would just take a moment and talk to your neighbor about this question. What is momentum? What is it at a gut level? Okay.
Not my 48, so.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, you have both.
Okay, folks. Let's talk about this. If I were to say that senator has a lot of momentum, or that idea has a lot, that's not one of the senators running in this campaign. But if I say that idea has a lot of momentum, or that freight train has a lot of momentum, what does that word momentum mean in those contexts? What idea does it conjure up? I'm sorry? Hard to slow down or hard to stop? Okay? Hard to slow down or hard to stop. Now, indeed, a freight train, if it's going, is very difficult to stop. Now, I'm sorry, your name is?
Luke.
Luke. Do you skateboard at all?
No, I don't.
Okay. Luke here and I just had a little discussion, and he has something he wants to share with the class. Luke skateboards a lot. This is actually a picture of Luke. And a good picture of Luke. And Luke often skateboards down Main Street. And you don't know that he's been skateboarding down Main Street because he does it at night. Kind of a closet skateboarder. Luke, when you're going down Main Street, how fast are you typically going? 65, sometimes 70 miles an hour. I mean, he is really, really hauling. Now let's just try to imagine, close your eyes, imagine Luke going down Main Street 65 miles an hour, and right next to Luke is a large 18-wheeler Mack truck that is also going 65 miles down Main Street because they can. It's I-191 or whatever it is. Okay? Now, which of those, Luke or the Mack truck, has more momentum? Yeah, I think it's safe to say that the truck has more momentum, given the size of Luke over there. Now, here's the important question. Will that Mack truck always have more momentum than Luke? No. Give me an example. When would that Mack truck not have more momentum than Luke? Yeah, you park that Mack truck at Albertsons or Safeway, it has zero momentum. It's not hard to stop a stop truck. So there's an important difference between momentum, the new idea that we're talking about, and inertia or mass, the old idea that we're talking about. Now that Mack truck is always going to have more mass than Luke unless he eats some serious Big Macs, okay? But he can have more momentum than the truck. And indeed, the mass matters. The more mass, the easier it is to have a lot of momentum. The speed matters. And indeed, it turns out that momentum is just the product of the two, mass times the speed. And again, here I have to apologize on the behalf of all physicists everywhere, and that is we use that symbol again, P, for momentum. The P is silent, actually. We use that P for so many different concepts in physics that it can be confusing. But this is a very important use of the word, of the symbol P, momentum. Okay, are there questions so far? Okay, I have one. Give me an example of something that has a lot of momentum, is really, really hard to stop, but doesn't have much mass. Yeah, I've been teaching here 9 years, and that's always the first example that comes out of the class here in Montana. A bullet, especially this time of year. Okay, and so, yes, indeed, a bullet. Now, I went to high school in Guam. We didn't do that much hunting in Guam. We chase around iguanas and things like that. But they had tropical storms in Guam. And because of the tropical storms, none of the houses had windows. It was a dumb thing to have windows. Instead, we had metal louvers. And the reason is that we had these coconut trees everywhere. And they just, they dumped their coconuts all over. You'd kick them out of the way to go to school. And they were just a nuisance until you had a tropical storm, at which point they became cannonballs, and they just went every which way. And they had a large tropical storm shortly before my family arrived on the island, and my friends had pictures of small things embedded in telephone poles. Little pieces of straw that were stuck in, or pieces of glass that were just embedded. These things were going so fast, they just didn't want to stop. And so they have a lot of momentum because they're going very fast. Now, give me an example of something that would be hard to stop, but isn't going very fast.
A boulder.
I'm sorry?
A boulder.
A boulder? A huge boulder coming at you? Anything else? A train. We already talked about that example. Okay. Here's a more modern example. The space shuttle. And even if that space shuttle is just lumbering down the runway, because it has so much mass, it would be hard to stop it. You jump out in front and try to stop it. That's not going to be easy. Now, of course, this is not the way these things are meant to be used. Typically, they have a large mass and a large velocity. And if you've ever watched one of these things lift off and you listen to the announcer, it is now going 5,000 meters per second. Ooh, that's moving. So it has a lot of momentum. Very hard to stop. Now, that is a supertanker. Okay? Now, I'm sorry, your name is? Alicia. Alicia, we're going to make Alicia the captain of this supertanker. Okay? She's in charge of getting it from port to port and parking it at the dock. And this is the important part. Parking, always where you get into trouble. Okay? So you're coming into port here, and you can see it out in the distance there. And the question is, when do you want to turn off your engines? If you're wanting to park this thing at the dock, when do you want to turn off the engines? Just right couple seconds before I get there? Or? No. What do you think? What would it take? Yeah. Long distance or long time, okay? Actually, it turns out that it's an hour or several hours, okay, that you want to turn off your engines. And during those couple of hours, the water's just going to push against that boat and just slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, so that by the time you get to the dock, you can throw the engines in reverse and get that thing parked. Now, Alicia, would you characterize yourself as a patient person? She's not. But that's okay, because Alicia doesn't have to wait 2 hours to stop that boat. She can stop that boat in about 29 seconds. You know how? Yeah, you just ram that in the dock, just pow, just, you know, and 2 blocks later, you are stopped, okay? Now, the key there is that if we want to stop that supertanker, we have to change its momentum from what it was down to 0. There is some finite amount of change that has to happen. Otherwise, we hit the dock. Now, I can do that 2 ways. Either I can do that with a small force, the water gently pushing against the front of the boat, but that requires a huge amount of time. Or, if I don't want to wait a long time, I have to do it with a large superhuman force. Okay? Folks, that is the equation of chapter 7. You know, that's it. I wish it were more complicated than that. That's all there is to it. If I want to stop something or change its momentum, I have to exert a force for a certain time. And those two trade off of each other. When the time is large, the force can be small, and vice versa. And of course, it wouldn't be a chapter in physics if we didn't give it a fancy name. We call this the impulse. And it's just, the impulse is what changes momentum. And as we found out, it's just the force times the distance. Yeah, did I say distance? Mm-hmm. That is not only wrong, but sick and wrong. Okay, force times distance is something very different. What is it? That's Verk, and it changes energy. And one of the chief difficulties on this next exam is recognizing whether this problem is an energy problem or is this problem a momentum problem. And that mistake that I just made there is the key. If we are looking at time, the time that it takes for a force to change something, we found when we were dealing with energy that we never found out anything about the time interval. We were always in the dark about when things happened, according to Mickey. Okay? We could tell how far a force was exerted, but not how long. So that's going to be one of the clues on the exam. If you know how long a force is applied, nothing to do with energy, it's a momentum problem. Okay? Thanks for catching that. Now, of course, as you've come to expect, this is a lie. Okay? This is oversimplified. Greg, just blowing smoke your direction. In truth, forces are not simple, constant, always 50 Newton sorts of things. If I look at a baseball being hit by a bat, I'm sure you can realize that the force exerted by the bat on the ball is not a constant 50 newtons. It's going to be something that starts out at 0 when it first makes contact with the ball, and then it rises to some peak value, and then back down to 0 as the ball leaves the bat. And so the true equation for impulse has to take that changing force into account. And indeed, it's not the maximum value of the force or the minimum value of the force, but the average value of the force that is involved in the impulse. Questions about that? Yes?
Yeah, let's say if the ball didn't compress as the bat hit it, wouldn't it be just more of just a perfect spike then on the graph?
Okay, so what if I had a perfectly hard ball and a perfectly hard bat? And so that there could be none of this compression bouncing off. What you would end up with is a very spiky function. And the harder those two objects are, the more spiky this is going to be. And the more difficult it's going to be to find that F average. Okay? if I want to take this ball and change its momentum to that, you know, if it comes in at 70 miles an hour and leaves at 60 miles an hour, okay, and I have a fixed change in momentum, if I shorten that time down, what is that going to tell me about the force exerted by the bat to make that happen? It's got to be huge, okay? So the average force is going to become very large. So you not only have to make a bat that's rigid enough not to compress and can give you that short time interval, but also is sturdy enough that it won't just crack when it exerts that kind of a force.
So you could rationalize that that's why professional baseball players don't use aluminum. It's because it doesn't compress and it'll create a much larger force.
That sounds great. Now, we could take everything I know about baseball and dance it on the head of a pin. So we are way outside of my understanding, but it seems reasonable to me. Okay. Over the semester, we found a couple of things that Greg knows nothing about, haven't we? Everything except physics. Okay, are there other questions that I can't answer? You know, the very most difficult semester I ever had was when my wife took the class, you know, just for fun. And, you know, she'd just sit back in the class, and every now and again her hand would go up. And every time it went up, it's, oh, dang. Oh, you know, and it was always a question that was just beautiful. It was just insightful. It got right to the core of things, and I never had an answer. And, you know, and then we'd go home and talk about it for the rest of the evening. But great question. Okay, we are now ready to do the bed of death. This, of course, is my family. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to lie on the bed of death. We're going to lay the chest plate of death on my chest. Then the cinder block of death goes on the chest plate of death. And then the assistant of death will swing the sledgehammer of death with all his mighty might, crushing the cinder block of death. Now, there is only one problem, and that is that my assistant of death, who was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago, is not here. So I'm going to need a volunteer. Now, let me qualify things. I need a volunteer who has gotten at least a B on both of the previous exams, okay? Okay. Because if I don't live through this, there will be no third exam, and I just want to make sure. Okay. You've swung sledgehammers. You're comfortable with this. You won't hit my head. Okay. Okay. Now, yeah, they're real. Okay. Now, I need to give you some instructions here.
You're sweating.
Yeah, you bet I am. Now, I'm going to lay down here and get all set up, and then I will hold my breath, okay? And that's because I don't want to be moving when you hit me. I do want to be moving when you're done hitting me. That's okay. But when you're hitting me, I don't want to be moving. So what I'll do is I'll take a breath, I'll say ready, and then anytime you want, you just swing that hammer for all you're worth and just hit the cinder block, okay? Hit the cinder block. Okay, now, you get up there. Okay. Yeah, I might want to take that. Okay. We hope it won't get hurt. Oh, okay. This is always the hardest part at my age, you know, getting up there. Let me just make a change over here. Okay. Now, okay. Now, now, if I don't make it, would you give this to my wife, please? First of all, a warning. Do not try this at home. I'm a trained professional. I started out with 1 nail, worked my way up to 3 nails, and now I'm... Yeah, clearly that's not right. Okay, you know, because if I just had 1 nail and I had my entire 135 pounds on that one, what? What? You're so rude. Okay, so let's say that I've got 200 pounds of weight, and we've spread that over 1,000 nails. Okay, how much is each nail going to have to push to support me? Got 1,000 nails, 200 pounds. I got all the time in the world. Just work it out. I'm sorry? 5 pounds? 0.2. Okay, 1/5 of a pound per nail. And if you take a nail, and I'm not encouraging you to do this, but if you were to take a nail and push with 1/5 of a pound, you're not going to push through the skin. Now, if you push with 3 or 4 pounds, you're going to make a hole. Okay, so don't do that. Now, so part of it is having lots of nails. That's good. However, I would argue that, sorry, your name is? Kelly. Kelly, otherwise known as the assistant of death. If I were to lay down on the concrete and let Kelly hit me in the chest with the sledgehammer, you know, even without the nails, I'm toast. So there's more to this demo than just having lots of nails, okay? Now, are there any questions at this point before we go further? Please?
Warm Springs want you back.
I'm sorry?
When does Warm Springs want you back?
Warm Springs is going to be wanting me back. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, we'll just put that there. Okay. Oh, that hurt. Yeah, you never want to put your head down on it. Okay, let's chest plate of death goes here. Here. Okay, now the cinder block. Okay, about like that. Now, okay. Are there questions? Kelly, have you ever done this before?
I've hit lots of stuff.
Did any of it live?
No, they're mostly inanimate.
Inanimate. Well, I hope not to be inanimate in just a moment. Now, first of all, safety is an issue. So put those on. Now, do you want to just take a test thing? Just, yeah, that'll make me feel more, okay. Now again, just as hard as you want, but hit the cinder block. Okay.
Don't you hit it?
No, wait till I say go. Okay. Okay, Kelly.
Ready?
Yep. Oh, that was a good hit. Oh. Thank you. Oh. Wow. Oh, Kelly, you did a bad thing. This. Oh, yeah, I get that back. I was never worried. I'm a professor. There's nothing in it. Now, the question at this point is, why is Greg alive? Or as you're thinking it, why is Greg alive? That sledgehammer had a lot of momentum. I mean, Kelly had it coming down very quickly towards my chest. My goal was to give that sledgehammer 0 momentum before it went through my chest. Okay, I had to change it from whatever it was down to 0. Now remember, we can change momentum 2 ways. Either I can do it slowly with a small force or quickly with a large force. Now the question is, which way do I want to do it? Do I want to do it with a big force or a little force? Shout it out.
Big force.
That's what you want. But let's talk about what I want. Okay? Remember, for a lot of years, I wasted my time in the library studying Newton's third law, which says that if I hit Kelly, what? He hits me back. And it's not later in the day because he's ticked. It's at the same time. It's part of the same interaction. While I'm hitting Kelly, he's hitting me. Newton's third law says those are going to be equal and opposite. Now, if I put a large force on that sledgehammer to stop it quickly, what does it do? Puts a large force on me to break something. Okay? So I want to stop that cinder block as slowly as possible. What piece of equipment just saved my life? The cinder block. The cinder block shouldn't be called the cinder block of death, but the cinder block of life. Really. Without it, we would have, Kelly's sledgehammer would have been stopped very quickly, and it hurt really bad. It took time to crash through that cinder block. Not a lot, but more than just really quick. Okay? That cinder block was acting like a funny-looking airbag to keep me alive. Now, I got to tell you that this...
What if it was solid?
I'm sorry, what if it was solid? As long as it would break apart, you'd be okay. Now, it's funny you should ask, because the first time I did this demo, I had a not so good experience. I was a little nervous. I went to an older professor, Larry Kirkpatrick, who had done this for years, and I said, Larry, am I going to be okay? He says, oh, trust the physics. You will be fine. You know, I says, well, how hard should they swing the sledgehammer? As hard as they want. You'll be fine. And so I go to class, and I asked one of the students to swing the sledgehammer. He was an older student. I knew him from church. Name was Ralph Brooks. I said, Ralph, you know, you just swing that sledgehammer as hard as you want. I'll be fine. And I forgot to notice that Ralph Brooks was huge. I mean, he's just a huge man. And so he took this great big roundhouse swing, came down as hard as he could, and missed the center of the cinder block. He hit it on the edge where it's solid. And I just, my arm flew up, my leg flew up, I just, and you know, half the class was afraid I was dead. The other half was afraid I wasn't. Yeah. I mean, what do you do with the professor when they're in that in-between stage? You know, you hit him with a rock? Or what? Put him out, put him out. You know? He's making a mess. So anyway, I couldn't breathe, and I was just, it just hurt so bad. And the problem was there was 2 sections. I had to do it again the next section.